definitely. I actually saw a Facebook memory come up where when Darkest Hour came up, I said something along the line of like, um, well, with this, this movie begs to compare a comparison to Lincoln, in which it proves that Joe Wright is definitely no Spielberg. And what's his name? The cinematographer, De Bonnell. Um, Forgot, but the cinematographer of Darkest Hour, Bruno De Bonnell, is definitely not Janusz Kaminski. Um, and Gary Oldman, even though he his style of acting is so different from Daniel Day-Lewis, the two of them have basically proven that they're will probably go down in history as the best two actors that ever lived. And then I said like, yeah, and of course like Marlon Brando a close third.
Yeah.
So yeah, which I think that's obviously I just like was ranting about those movies, but I might stick by that. I do think that Brando was something special, even though he didn't do as many movies or as many characters. He had the potential to. He just kind of wasn't interested in doing very many movies. But
Yeah.
I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis haven't done so many movies, and he's also considered like one of the best
Yeah.
ever. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
We can never forget the island of Dr. Moreau. That was
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, there's always gonna be like
even
some.
Gary Oldman has some bad movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, although he's always very good in them.
Oh,
He has very few bad
Yeah.
performances.
Yeah.
I
I think
can't
that's
think
the
of any.
I think that's the downfall of Brando is that he did eventually just like kind of lose interest. I mean, he was kind of non-committal. I mean, even in Apocalypse Now, I mean, there were all those horror stories about how he showed up like 50 pounds overweight and didn't have his lines memorized and all that stuff. And they had to basically rework the entire movie around him. You don't hear that kind of stuff about Daniel Day-Lewis or Gary Oldman.
True.
It is an
Although
interesting.
another
Yeah, go
great
ahead.
performance though.
Yeah.
Which one?
Apocalypse Now.
Oh, Apocalypse Now. Yeah. No, and it is interesting because the when I saw that old post, I thought about that is funny because it's an interesting subject of conversation is like the style of acting. And this also relates to music too. There's this thing about the British actors. They're very they tend to be very educated, highly educated. It feels like they're the smart version of actors. That's why they do well now in Hollywood. Like they learn the Shakespeare and the this and the that, and like here in the U.S., they mostly some of them go to Yale now and to but a lot of them just go to acting school, and it's a very different style of acting. It's more instinctual, emotional. Like the whole the De Niro, Pacino, Brando, DiCaprio, I guess in the modern sense would be a similar one too. He at least tries to be. I don't think he's anywhere near close to them, but he's devoted his life to try and be close as possible to them. He was very ambitious with his career, but I don't think quite made it. But yeah, and then you have the Patrick Stewart, the Ian McKellen, the all these actors, these British actors that are just a different style. It's more cerebral. It's more thought through. Like it's more I don't know, more so than the American actors. And I feel like music is the same way. Like there's good American rock bands, for example, but the smart rock bands tend to be British. The Radiohead and the Pink Floyd and the this and then here you have the more mumbly bands, the Guns N' Roses, the Metallicas, the Pearl Jams. Like I don't know, it's like it's still good, but it's not as sophisticated as some of the British bands are.
There's a great story from the movie Marathon Man, where like Dustin Hoffman was doing a scene with Laurence Olivier,
Oh yeah, I
and
like that story.
Dustin Hoffman was supposed to be being like, tortured and shit, and he, in order to preface the scene, Dustin Hoffman like sprinted a mile, around the set and came back in, and Laurence Olivier just kind of looked at him and said, "Have you thought about acting? Like just acting?"
Yeah, and that's how Gary Oldman sees it too. Like, as opposed to say like a Daniel Day-Lewis of all people, is the whole method acting and transforming yourself through experience and stuff. Like, it's really all it is. It's play. It's make believe, and as long as you have good technique, I love the that's one of the greatest moments in whatchamacallit, and that show that Ricky Gervais did, Extras,
Yeah.
as with Ian McKellen. It's
Oh
like,
my God.
for
Oh
example,
my God.
how did I, play the role of Gandalf? I am not a sorcerer. It's like, so when Peter Jackson called me, I said, "You do know that I am not." And then he does the whole thing about like how he transformed. "Oh, you shall not pass," and then I'm back to Ian McKellen. And so it's the whole. That's really what like Gary Oldman always says is like, yeah, it really is just you're just make believe. You just like for a moment you're that character, and then you go back to being you. That's all it is.
Isn't that the scene? He's got it's like a part of that whole same bit or something where he says like, "I knew where to stand because there was little pieces of tape on the floor." And he says like, and then they gave me a script and I read the words on the script, but I pretended I was a sorcerer or something like that. This poor Ricky Gervais is like looking up to it. It's just like, what the hell?